Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today this is part 2 of the utility truck build. So in part 1, I took this truck from the toolbox. I was just looking for a truck. And then we built the bed, put the decals on it, built the legs, got that working. So I left off here where this part here, the arm. I think this is anchored, I'm not sure. One part is. Okay, so we unanchor it. So now what we need to do is we're going to have one, let's see, this and this and this and this. We will say can collide false, and that way it can fold in onto itself. Alright, and then here we just want to insert, I'm going to turn on constraint details. Insert object attachment. Alright, and then from there we are just going to make a hinge between that part and that part, and that's it. And then we take the position here, the world C-frame position, we copy it, and we make that one the world C-frame, boom. Alright, and then when we look at the hinge itself, eventually what I'll do is I'll drag all the hinges into one part, and that's where I'll put the interface and the code, and that way it'll be easy to find, right? So we could name this hinge, for example, let's see, arm hinge 1, like arm hinge A, right? This here. You could rename that crane pivot. Cane pivot. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so we can do something like that. And then that way you can just keep track of it. Okay, so we have a hinge here for the main arm. We're also going to have another hinge up here. I don't know if I'm going to worry about the basket, but yeah, I guess eventually we are. So let's insert an object. I'm still not sure how we're going to be sorting all this out. And then we want to move, let's see here, this here. Yeah, like that. This is going, let's see. May as well pivot from there. All right. Perfect, and now we can make that we can rename that basket, right? And that's how we're going to be able to keep track of it, basket knuckle. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the prismatic constraint for these sections of the arm. I probably should have, let's see here. We're going to move that into there. I'm going to anchor this temporarily. Do one section at a time. So that'll be where it, 0. Let's call that 0, okay? So now we're going to take a prismatic and we're going to attach it between there and there. We need to rotate it to the direction of travel. This one here. There we go. Okay, and now we'll take this C-frame, this position. All right, now that's the constraint. We can rename this A, B, and C, whatever, right? Doesn't matter. Okay, and then we'll say limits enabled, and we want it to extend. Let's try 8, maybe. We'll just test it here. We'll set it up as a motor, force, maximize its force. Oh boy. 0.5. Let's try that. It is going out. Well, which is what we want, but let's take that. See how far it goes. I like it. 8 seems pretty good. And I mean, I suppose I could just make that transparent, right? Just to see how much of it comes out. That's almost perfect. That's cool. So there you have it. Okay, so then we'll take this one here and we'll make it kind of transparent here. And then we're going to take this one. It can rest like that, and then we will go on the back side here. And we'll make it prismatic between here and here. All right, we'll take that. Call that B. And we'll use this position here. Make sure it's the world C-frame. All right, and then B, we can do the same thing. We'll say limits enabled. We'll tell it to go out 8. Now, I think this part was anchored. Let's test that. Cool. So now we can make it so that way all 3 extend at one time. Or you could go boom A, boom B, and boom C. I think I'm going to set it up so that way all 3 extend at one time. I think it just would be really cool. So now we take our last piece here. I'm going to unanchor it, and we'll do the same thing. This one has the basket on it, so still do the same thing, but we're going to move this constraint out of the way just for now. Just try not to get confused. And then we need another prismatic. Nope, we'll create it from between there and there. And we basically do the exact same thing we just did. Rotate it. Rotate it. Take that position. Perfect. And then we can call this C. And we can say limits enabled. It can go out 8. Same thing. Motor. And eventually we'll be setting all this up with the code. We'll be doing that here shortly. Okay, and now this block here has to it should be unanchored. Right, this part doesn't really matter. It's going to flop around. That would make a can't collide false. All right, let's just test that out. Now, I do notice one thing, and that's the brown. Where is that constraint? This one here. It didn't move. I don't know why. See, it's not extending out. Why is that? Did I attach it to the wrong? No, it should be attached to here. Yeah. It's got the limits enabled. Oh, I wonder if, I guess it shouldn't really matter, but yeah. So strange. Maybe it needs to be 1 to overcome the force. Oh look! Oh, maybe it needs to be negative. Maybe it needs to be negative. Negative 0.5. That's funny. It could very well be. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Oh boy. Oh wow. So there we go. There you have it. So now it'll extend. Something's going on here. Arm number 1, arm number 2. Why is it not extending? This arm extends. This arm here. Oh no. Yeah, just the brown one doesn't want to extend. C. Why not? -1 maybe? Oh, upper limit, does that mean it has to be -8? Potentially. Oh, there it is. How silly is that, eh? So I could have just turned it around, I guess. All right. So there you have it. Now all the constraints are set up on the vehicle. Now we're able to build the user interface, and then we'll put the basket on. So that is what we're ready to do now. The user interface. Okay, so how do we want this to work? We basically need a control box. So if we just go to the toolbox here, and we just look at like controls. Oops. Maybe truck lever. I think this is the truck I used. Let's see. Yeah, look, it's got all this. It's got all the same stuff. All right, that's what I wanted off of it. This here. Clicker. No. What's this? That's this here. Okay. We'll take that. See? Got the old style, you know. Same kind of condition as that. Probably doesn't work. Needs a little bit of work to it. Anyway, so we take the control box. All right, and then so. Oops. It's not welded together, so let's just quickly weld it together. This is the safest way to get parts to work, is to weld them together. Safest way. Alright, perfect. So then we'll just put this into miscellaneous in there. That's the easiest way to sort it. Now this part, if you go into there, is it? Yeah, okay. And now everything we've created, go to miscellaneous, so we can rename that crane. And we can rename this controls. Perfect. And now in the controls, make sure they're not anchored. And then we can just take this one here and weld it. Bada bing, bada boom. Now it's attached to the vehicle. Okay, now somewhere in here, we're going to insert an attachment. So right click, insert object. Now, why the attachment? Well, the attachment is where we're going to place the proximity prop that the player is going to activate. So if you place it inside there, we can drag this wherever we want to on the vehicle. And then you can take the line of sight, requires line of sight, and you can make it very small. And that way you can have a whole bunch of prompts in a small little area that the player can interact with, and they won't interfere with each other. Right? So in here, we're going to rename this to crane controls. And then we're going to insert object proximity prop. Proximity prop. Okay, now we're going to rename this part to crane controls as well. Now in here, we need to insert an object. We need a remote event. Okay. We're going to rename the remote event to crane. Okay, we then also need a script. We're going to rename this script our controls, a control script, okay, which is basically what it is. All right, and then we need to also insert here. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get go to Starter UI. We're going to insert object, a screen UI, insert frame. All right, we'll do this. Okay, so there's two ways we can go from here. So you can go right click, you can go insert object. If we insert an image button, it's exactly the same as a text button, only we can now put an image there instead of a label. Okay, so that's two types of buttons, but they're both buttons. That's to your advantage. In this case, we are going to be using the text button. Yeah, we'll just leave it as is. Text scaled. Let's see. Make it blue. All right, and then the text can be white. All right, and this is going to say. This is the crane controls. So let's name this one pivot. Let's see, let's name this one pivot. Just for now. Where is it here? Text. Pivot. Okay, perfect. Now, inside the screen, we need to insert a bool, remember? No, it was an object value. We needed the object value, all right? Then we also need to insert a local script. This is gonna be we can rename that as the UI control script, okay, which is basically what it does. It controls the UI. So first thing we need to do is we need a couple of variables. So let's rename this to crane. C-R-A-N-E. Oh my goodness. All right, so we rename that to crane. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to that sets up the UI. So it's not here. We're going to need one more script as well in here. That's what I'm thinking about. We can insert object, get a script in there. All right. This is what sets up the values for the user interface. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it doesn't happen inside the screen controls, and it doesn't happen inside the control script. It happens inside this script. This is going to be the values and UI clone script values and UI clone script. Okay, really long name, really easy to remember. That one there, and then we'll see local button equals script parent proximity prompt. We could say button trigger ended connect function, and then what do we want it to do? Well, it would be like script parent. So not in the proximity prompt, but in crane controls. So we go .parent again. .crane UI, I'll call it. We'll say clone. Clone. .parent equals player. see if that works first. Name this. What's player? Yeah. There we go. Just like that. Perfect. So that's the first part of it. Then we need to say, so looking back where we are, we need to say script.parent. Oh, we need to assign the values. So we need to say, because we're going to be good at putting this, yeah. No, not in the remote event. Script.parent.parent.craneui.crane. All right, so we say script.parent.parent .craneui.crane, okay, .value equals, then we need to, this remote event here. So we say script.parent.parent.crane. All right, so now whenever we change this value, we say fire server, it'll allow us to connect the value to the script. Now, I think there's one more, I'm going to open from file, there's one more thing we need to do here. I'll just look at the cement truck. There's a couple things we need to do, but just refreshing myself. I haven't done it from scratch. I've always just looked at my code, so that's my fault for not yeah, first it looks for the UI and then it destroys it, and then that's what it does. Yeah, the functions. Okay, so maybe we'll rename it functions. So we just need this part here, so that's it. All right, perfect. So that was pretty good. Okay, nice. Oh, whoops. We could say, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to put in there. Excellent, excellent. Finally, a code suggestion that works the first time, right? And then we can say script.parent. We can say script.parent. Actually, it probably doesn't matter. So that UI is always going to be here. It's always going to be, instead of it disappearing, it's always going to be on the truck, and it will clone it to the player. Now, if another player comes by, it'll clone it to them. So we don't want that. So what we'll do is we'll say script. We'll say button, actually. No. Button.enabled equals false. Okay? And now when we build the user interface for the truck itself, that's where we'll have the button to turn this on or off. So when we're using the crane, we can, that way the player always has access to the vehicle and nobody else can just walk up to it and take control of it and use it on their own. So that's step number one. We've created the user interface. Now we need to add the buttons. So we'll drag the user interface back. So we say pivot, right? So we're going to go first into the control script. And we're going to say we need to name a few things. We need to say crane value equals crane value equals script dot parent dot crane dot value. All right, and then we need to say local. Well, if we had, we're going to have two different frames, okay? So this one here is going to be called the base. And then we're going to have another frame, which is going to be the basket. All right, so the base is going to control the pivot and the arm, and then the basket will control the rotation of the basket, because maybe we'll let the basket pivot on its own as well. We'll see. So we need to say base UI equals script dot parent dot base, and then it's just easier for when we're referencing buttons, right? So this first button here, we're going to rename this to pivot. All right, so we can say base UI dot pivot, and then we want to say dot mouse button 1 down connect function, and then we want to say crane value. I want to say fire server, and then in here we want to have the value that we want to let's say crane left, right, just like that. So now what we're going to do is we will take the control script and we will say active local, I think that's right, activation equals script dot parent dot crane. So we can say hold on a second, let me open up from file the other one that we have here. Let's go back to the cement truck because it's built identical to this. Sometimes it's easy just to get a handle of the variables first. If we don't connect it, it won't function, right? So on server event connect function player variable. That's what we're looking for. So we say script parent on server event. So we name the remote event and then we say on server events. We say activation dot on server event connect function, and then we say player and variable, and then we can say if variable equals, and what's the variable we're trying to pass on here? Crane left. Then what do we want to do? Then we want to say script.parent.parent.parent. Okay. Script.parent.parent.parent.crane. It should be .base. Where is it in there? .crane. Let's see, let's just enable that for a second. Base. Base.crane pivot, all right? .crane. Oh, .crane arm. .crane arm. .base. .crane pivot. All right, .crane pivot. Now what do we want to do with the crane pivot? We want to say it's a motor. And do we want limits? No, we don't, but we're going to say max motor torque is going to be infinite. So here's what we're going to do. The angular velocity right now is at 0. So when you press the mouse button down, we're going to say dot angular velocity equals 0.5. And then we're also going to say dot max motor torque INF, like that, okay? Now, when we copy this one, when we lift the mouse button up, it'll be crane left stop. So then what we do is we'll take this, and this is going to be 0, and this is also going to be 0, just like that. Then it'll stop completely. I don't know if we want the motor torque actually to be 0 in this case. Not in this case, because if you set it to 0, it'll just spin and spin and spin. So we still want it to be infinite, so we don't technically need this part here. If we were going to lock it in place with a weld, then we would say max motor torque 0 weld, and that'll be sort of later on if you were building a crane and you wanted to lift something heavy up. And you have to do a little bit of that kind of stuff. You need to weld the crane arm together, so it's kind of like it's anchored. It's a little bit different, but yeah, we could do this, but we can just get away with this for now, I think. I don't think we need this part, but we'll leave the code there just in case we want to use it later on. So then we will take the controls. Okay, let's take the crane UI and let's put it in there, and we will enable it. Let's see if we can connect these functions here. So if we pivot it, fire server. So instead of fire server, it is fire server. What's going on? 12. Script.parent.crane.value. Is that right? Let's see. Let's make sure we did this right, because I did the same thing last time. It's an object value. Script.parent.trailer.value. Yep. And then we are fire server boom down. Mill with fire server. Can I do that for there? Yeah. Fire server. Yeah. And this is a object value. This is the object value. Interesting. Interesting. Script apparent frame, so where that's the button. Got boom down. Yeah. Oh. Wow. Well, I'll have to figure this out. I'll have to figure out where it's going. So we get the UI, and then it says nil with fire server. What is that crane value? I don't know. Looks the same to me. wonder if it has to, is it because this one's not waiting? I don't think so. Ooh, all that stuff from that truck's gonna be a little bit here. No, it won't let me fire server from here. I wonder why that is. Pivot, yeah. Mouse button 1 down. Connect function. Make sure I'm writing this down. There, let's just copy one of these functions over. See if I've written it out correctly. I appear to have done that. This just changes the background color. We'll do that after. Do I need to have player in here? It's telling me to put another. Why? No. I think it has to do with this here. Let's take a look at that. Where it clones, not this one here, the controller. Not that. Not that one. Where's the clone on this one? Right here. GUI.trailer.value. Oh, yeah. GUI.trailer.value. I think that's what I did here. Is yeah, .crane UI, .crane.value, which is what we've done. That's the UI value, I'm pretty sure. Oh boy. Yeah. And we're setting it to trailer functions. I wonder if I said trailer functions.value. Scripted parent crane. That's probably what's confusing it. You know that. Let's rename that crane functions. Just so that way we'll have to make sure that the terminology is there also. Try and deduce. No. Try and figure this out. So what is it then? What is it? Crane functions. We've got the remote values in there. That's the UI, GUI.parent, yeah, player.UI. Oh, I see, it doesn't clone it, it just, instead of cloning it, maybe that's why it actually hands the GUI off. Maybe that's the problem here, is the cloning of it. So instead of cloning it, maybe we do that instead. No. What did it say? Crane controls crane. Yeah, if you don't clone it, it just gives it right over. That's the whole point of cloning it. It duplicates it, and that should be fine. So I shouldn't have an issue with that. I don't know. Oh man, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try to do this, and now we're like halfway through, like an hour into it here, and I've hit a roadblock, a major roadblock here. What are we at? Yeah, 45 minutes in. I don't know how long I've been working on this issue now for, but basically, where are we at here? Where are we even at? Let's see. We don't need the controller. We need the. It's got it in the local down here. I don't think that matters, to be honest. No, because then he's just shortening it. I'm just shortening it. It's the same function written twice. Right? Then I can just go GUI up here. See, that's written a little differently. Maybe let's try that. Let's try that. Let's try equals. That's how they have it set up. No. It needs to be like that. That's how that functions. So now what is going on here is, oh, probably that. No, it still won't let me connect it through. It says attempt the next nil with fire server. Why is that? I don't know. Now I'm really confused. I really don't know what's going on. Object value trailer. Yeah. This is our object value crane. Alright. Alrighty. So as we were going over this build here, I think I figured out what I had done wrong. So I'm just going to correct that. That's pretty much going to be the end of the video here. So while we were making this script, this is the script that clones the UI onto the player. So what I ended up having to do, instead of using the clone function, we have to say local, we have to say this UI, and then we say UI.parent here, and then we take the value and it becomes that value. This is what we need to do. If we don't write it this way, as you saw, it's going to say you can't fire server. It doesn't understand firing the server. So now that we've changed the code over, you'll see that I'm actually able to get the crane to pivot here. There, you see that? Perfect. That is absolutely perfect. And that's kind of the beginning of where we're at. So that's, I know this one's kind of a long one. It's about, an hour. The next one will be an hour or two probably. But that should pretty well get you started. Now all we need to do is connect functions to the constraints. So what I'll do is I'll go through all the rest of these constraints now and I'll just reset them. We just need to change the values from, just change all the velocities to 0, basically. And then that'll just allow the vehicle to rest. So when we're testing it, it'll stop moving now. And then we can connect the code over. We can connect the code. So just give me a moment here and we'll get this. Well, you know what? Yeah, it doesn't matter because Once we get the code, we still need to test each part. Does it move the way we want it to? So it doesn't even matter if we forget that one needs to go up and one needs to go down. It doesn't matter. When we program it, we're going to have to do the same thing again. All right. So that's that, and then the arm. That'll be 0, and that'll be 0, and that'll be 0. All right, now when you spawn in your vehicle, it shouldn't move. It should just be sitting there. Look at that. It's just sitting there. Perfect, right? And then when we interact, one thing I do want to do, just it's hard to see. I want to make this frame. I just want to change the background transparency just on this, just a little bit. There we go. So we can see through it, right? It's so big. There we go. And then you'll push the button and it'll move. So that's just what I was saying. It could be either text or you could have an image of you know, a circle moving around, and then they press it and they go, oh look, my crane is moving. So this is basically a crane. What we've created is a crane or a bucket truck. I'm going to put the bucket on it because I just think it'll be cool as a bucket truck. But I could always, maybe what I was thinking about doing, I'll put a hook on here and I'll make a part that we can detach from here. Something like that. And maybe when it, I don't know, we'll see. We'll be able to attach the hook to it. Yeah, it'll be something anyways. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in part 3, where we continue to connect the code to the functions of the vehicle. And then in part 4, we will go through the cab. And that'll pretty much be that. Decals, lights, and I'll put it up there so you can use it in your game. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you then.